collect them. My name is Joanne Carson, and I was a supervisor at the Children's Advocacy Center until December of last year when I retired. So let me tell you, it's a great thing if you can do it when you're that age. So I can kind of pick and choose things I want to do now, and I love this conference. I've been here many years, many times. I've been a member of Lucas County Human Vaccine Coalition for several years, so I'm glad to be here with you all today. I'm going to introduce our speaker. Our speaker for this session is Dorenthea. Okay, good. And Dorenthea is an author and inspirational speaker. You may have seen her table out there with the vendors, a couple books out there. Her first book, In the Midst of the Storm, chronicles her journey during the worst time of her life, the 12-year incarceration of her husband. She speaks to groups letting them know that, no matter what, quitting is not an option. Give Dorenthea a hand.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to my session. Just to give you a little small summary of who I am married to my husband Albert. We've been married for 25 years. We have a son, thank you. We have a son and a daughter. Our son is in the Navy, he's 22. He's in the Navy in Guam. And he just made me a grandmother for the first time. So I'm a granny. And my daughter is in her third year here at the University of Toledo. And I used to work here at UT. I just resigned from my position. I was the executive assistant to the dean of the College of Health Sciences. And I just resigned from that position this past May to do what I am doing now. And that is speaking to groups, letting them know that quitting is not an option, because the title of my first book is called In the Midst of the Storm. How many of us have been through storms in our lives before? And if you haven't, like my grandfather said, keep living. It's going to happen. And so I wrote that book, In the Midst of the Storm, and we're going to come back to that. But my second book is called Next, 4 Steps to Get Unstuck and Walk into Purpose, which is why I have resigned from my position, because I was ready to walk into my purpose. And our purpose is tied to our passion. And I love speaking to groups. Encouraging them to walk into their purpose, to pursue their passion. And we're having some technical difficulties. To pursue their passion and to walk into their purpose. And so to begin my story, which is why you are here, let's go back to May 5th, 2000. But before we go there, let me tell you, I'll give you a little preview, background leading up to that point. My husband and I have been married for 7 years, and life was good. We went to church every Sunday. I was a good mom and a good wife to my husband, and I did everything that I thought to do, that I knew to do was right. Like I said, I was born and raised in church all my life. And so I didn't cuss, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't do any of those things. So, I was a good girl, so you could say. And so I did everything that I knew what was right, and Mrs. Cleaver on Leave It to Beaver. Well, I was the black Mrs. Cleaver. I had the dinner cooked when my husband came home from work. I was a good mom to my children, and I kept the house clean, and everything was good. Life was good. Until that one day that literally turned my life upside down. Because while things may look good on the outside, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good on the inside. And there were some things that my husband Albert was struggling with. And I knew that, we have the normal problems that every marriage has, and we didn't have a perfect marriage. And we, like I said, we went to church. I was in the choir, and he worked at the church, and so I thought that, okay, even though I knew that there were some things that he was struggling with, I'm like, okay, well, it's nothing that a little prayer can't handle. And I was like, okay, I can fix this. I bought a little couple's Bible, so that we could get up in the morning and read the Bible together, and I was like, and we're going to pray together, and I'm going to fix this, because many times we try to fix things. We try to fix our spouse. We try to fix our children. And really, we can't do anything. We can't fix anything or anyone. They have to be willing to change. And so here it is. My husband is struggling, and I'm thinking, okay, we're just going to pray about it. We're just going to and just do the right thing and do what we know to do, and everything is going to be okay. Well, we prayed about it, but sometimes our prayers are not answered the way that we want them to be answered. Sometimes things are going to happen, and that's why we have to be careful what you pray for, because you just might get it. And so I had, I was like, okay. After we prayed and we're still trying to make it work, he was still struggling. And then one night, and I really didn't know the extent of it until one night I got a knock on my door. There were 5 to 7 police cars in my driveway. And I opened the door, and the detective and some policemen were standing there. And the detective told me, he said, "Ma'am, we have arrested your husband, and he's going to be gone away for a long time." You guys talked about my world turning upside down. Like I said, we were praying about it, and here it is, that I'm getting a knock on my door. They're telling me that my husband is going to be going away for a long time. Wait a minute. I'm a good girl. I'm a church girl. I pray, and I read my Bible, and I do everything that I know to do. Hold up. You cannot be serious. You cannot be telling me not what my husband is going to be going away to prison for a long time. And so here it is. I'm thinking, okay, he's sitting in the back of a police car. There are 5 to 7 police cars in my driveway. And he's sitting in the back of the police car with his hands handcuffed behind his back. And I took my son out there to see him, because they told me he's going to be gone away for a long time. And it was heartbreaking that my husband couldn't even put his arms around him, because his hands were handcuffed behind his back. And so I go back in the house, and they're looking through my closets. Policemen and detectives, they're looking under my beds and looking in my bedrooms. But even in the midst of all of that, And that's what I named my first book, In the Midst of the Storm. That even in the midst of all that, I still had peace. And it was funny, because the detectives they took notice. I guess they were expecting me to go cray-cray, to start crying and screaming, but I had peace. Because I knew that, at least in my mind, I was thinking, it's not gonna last. God is just trying to get his attention. It's gonna be okay. It's not gonna last. Why? Because I'm a good girl. I did what was right. I'm a good woman. I'm a good wife and a mother. And so I know that this is going to go how I want it to go. And so here it is that he's been taken away. Now 6 months have passed. And it's time for him to go to court in November of 2000. And I'm expecting, he's going to give me a call. He's going to tell me to come get him. It's going to be all right. And I don't prayed about it. It's going to be okay. And then he calls me, and I pick up the phone. And he tells me, the judge sentenced me for 16 years. One of the charges, I can at least give you that much detail. One of the charges was for aggravated burglary, and the other one was for kidnapping. He ended up going into the wrong door at the wrong time and told the person that he walked into the door and told them to sit down. After he realized he walked in the wrong door, he told them to sit down and just count to 100, and I would leave. Well, in the state of Ohio, or probably anywhere else, that's kidnapping. Punishable up to 15 years. So, he got 8 for one charge and 8 for the other. And after I got off the phone with him, needless to say, I cried. And the day after that, I cried. And the day after that, I cried. For 3 days. Like I said, be careful what you pray for, because I can pray, and my husband, he'll tell people, he said, it was my fault that he had gotten sentenced to so many years. Because I said, God, whatever it takes, I need you to change my husband and make him the man that I need him to be. And God did whatever it took. And now, when I look back over that time, I don't think I would have prayed anything different. Just because of the man that he is today. We're serving now as associate pastors at our church. And he came home in 2012 after serving 12 of the 16 years. He had been taking educational and counseling classes, and the judge took notice because we were writing letters every month, every year for 12 years. And every month I took my children to see their father. Even though people told me, you need to leave him. Just walk away. You're young. You can get somebody else. Even my own grandmother said you need to leave him. Even my own best friend. And that's when you have to know for yourself. Sometimes we can't listen to what other people say. Because when I went to see him, he was in the Toledo Correctional Institution. We were here in Toledo. And I went to see him the very first time I went to see him. And after our visit, I was like, okay, God, I know that you are in this. That you had to do whatever it took. And even though it didn't happen the way I thought I wanted it to happen. And sometimes we have to go through things in life that it's not going to always work out the way we want it. But then we have to understand that when we come out of it, we're coming out stronger. You're coming out better and wiser. That nothing is in vain. And so when I went to see him for the first time, I knew, okay, I'm in this thing for the long haul. I'm in it for the long run. Even if I have to wait 16 years. And that's what I was willing to do. And after we kept writing letters to the judge, and eventually he saw that, and he was telling them no after no after no, over and over again. And it got discouraging. And it was like, right when I was ready to give up, y'all. In December of 2011, I just knew, okay, this is the year. It's going to happen. This thing is getting ready to go down. He's coming home. And because he said that we had been writing letters to the judge, and so I just knew that it was going to happen until December 31st, New Year's Eve. I was on the phone with my husband, Albert, that's his name, and I was crying. I was saying, honey, I don't know if I can wait any longer because it's getting too hard. I thought it was getting ready to happen, and it didn't happen. I was ready to give up, and I was ready to quit. And sometimes right when you're ready, right at the brink of your breakthrough, when you're just right before you're ready to give up, it happens. So if you don't get anything else from what I'm saying, no. And I love to encourage people to tell them, don't give up. That's what my motto is. I will not give up, no matter what. Quitting is not an option. Because just when you are about ready to give up, that's when it happens. And I think sometimes we have to come to the end of ourselves. Because we do try to fix things, and we do try to work things out on our own. But then when we stop, when we take our hands off of it, then and we just don't worry about it anymore, then that's when it happens. Because when I was just about to give up, I get a phone call. Let me see, it was January 4th, I believe. 3 or 4 days later, and I get a phone call, and Albert tells me, he said, the judge is going to see me. And he's bringing me back to Toledo, because at this time, he was in Toledo for a few years, he was in Grafton for a few years, he was in Marion for a few years. I think that the last time he was in Marion, and then he came back to Toledo, then he was in Marion, and then that's when I get the phone call. He said, the judge is going to bring me home so that I can go before the court. And I was like, what does that mean? He said, it means I'm coming home. And you are talking about the joy, the excitement that I had after 12 years. And it was something because during that time, I lost my home. I had to move back home to live with my parents for 5 years. My car was repossessed because I wasn't working. Even though I had a college degree, I was a stay-at-home mom because that's what Albert and I had talked about, that I would stay at home and take care of our children. So I had to move back home to live with my parents because I didn't have anything. I lost everything. And I basically gave all of our furniture away because we were renting a home. So I gave all the furniture away. I didn't have anywhere to put it. People were coming over, getting stuff, getting my stove, getting my couch, and if only I could tell you the pain that I was feeling during that time. When you see people coming in your home and taking your things away, and the place that you used to call home for a long time, now you have to leave it. So, and I still get teary-eyed just talking about it. That when you put your life into something and you give someone your life, and you pour your life into someone and you pour your life into that thing, and then it doesn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen, and it fails. And you feel like a failure. And you have low self-worth. And this is a picture. You really can't see it, but that was one of the pictures of our son and daughter in prison. One of the prison pictures. And so my husband came home. And now he has given me the opportunity to come and stand before groups like I'm doing right now, to speak to you. Because see, after he came home, I was working here at the university, and I was talking to one of my coworkers, and I was telling her, you know, when something good happens, when you have went through something like that, you want to tell people. You want to talk about it because you're happy that, okay, I came through it. But you know that everybody doesn't want to hear your story. But there is somebody who needs to hear your story. And I was talking to her, and I was glad in everything I said. And, you know, and we came through it. We made it. And you expect people to be happy for you. And she was happy, but she said, don't tell anybody. They may not understand. So after she told me that, I didn't dare tell anybody. And now, I feel that it is my mandate to talk about it and to encourage other people to tell your story. That no longer will I let anybody tell me, shh, don't tell anybody. Because each of you have a story. Each of you have a journey that you have been on, or that you may even be on right now. Somebody needs to hear your story. Somebody needs to hear your voice. Your story is the key that can unlock someone else's prison. There are people who are bound with shame and with guilt. They're in a prison because nobody will understand my divorce. Nobody will understand my past. Because nobody will understand my struggles. Nobody will understand my addiction. Nobody will understand my mental illness. They won't understand how I was molested. They won't understand how I was, whatever your struggle is, your addiction, or they won't understand that I just want to die because I feel like that nobody loves me. And I just want to kill myself. I can't tell anybody that because they won't understand. And that's why you have to know that when you open your mouth, there is power in your words. You have the power to unlock somebody else's prison, to bring them out of the prison from their addiction, to bring them out of the prison of low self-esteem, to bring them out of the prison of low self-worth, to bring them out of the prison of shame and guilt. That is my fault. I can't tell anybody. I brought this on myself. No, that's a lie. You have a voice. You have a story to tell. Someone needs to hear your voice. Someone needs to hear that you can make it. Someone needs to know that what you've been through and you made it through, that they can make it through. Because many times we walk around and we keep our stories to ourselves, and there are people around us who are suffering and they are bound because we are too ashamed to open up our mouths. Fear and shame will keep you from your destiny. Don't waste your pain. There's a reason why you went through what you went through. And you may say one thing, well, who wants to hear me? Everybody has gone through this. There are a lot of people who went through what I went through. But nobody has your story but you. They can't tell it like you can tell it. No one has your voice. You have a unique voice. You have a unique story. And when you begin to open up your mouth and tell others that, yes, I made it through this, and because I made it through, then you can make it through. You don't have to give up. There are people who are on the brink of giving up. And when you let them know that you don't have to give up, that there is help, that's what they need to hear. Surrender to your story. Stop hiding from it. Take off the mask. Because if truth be told, some of us are wearing masks. We're walking around in a masquerade. Leave the masquerade. Leave the mask. Take off the mask. Because we can hide. You know, it's easy to hide. It's easy to dress up pain, isn't it? It's easy, you know, we can put on makeup and you know, we can put our, clothes on and we can dress it up. It's easy to dress up pain. You know, I had to learn how to put my big girl pants on. You know, I grew up in a good family. You know, my mother and father, you know, were married and I then grew up in a divorced home, and I'm the oldest of 5 children, and we grew up in a 2-bedroom house, and you know, and like I said, my grandfather was a pastor, and my father was a minister, and so there are, you know, gospel singers and preachers in my family. So, you know, I grew up, I had a happy life. But sometimes there comes a point though where you have to put your big girl, your big boy pants on. It was funny. I have to tell y'all this story. After my husband came home, y'all, me and y'all might want to put up your ears, but this is for the ladies. After my husband came home, you know, my underwear started feeling kind of tight. I was And so here it was. You know, my underwear started feeling uncomfortable after my husband came home. And I was like, I was like, and I thought that it was just, okay, maybe it was just me because I was going through some things, you know. But then I was talking to my younger sister. And I was telling her, about my issue. She said, well, maybe you need to get a bigger size. Maybe you need to get a bigger size penis. And I was like, for real? Is that what it is? Because we had went home for Thanksgiving after Albert came home, and and people telling me, oh, Dorenthea, you got some curves, girl, and your pants kind of tight, and I'm like, for real, really? Because I didn't even notice. I was like, that's what it is. I need to get some big girl pants. I need to put my big girl pants on. And that's even in the spiritual, that sometimes we have to go up a bigger size. Because where you used to be there's a higher level that you're supposed to go. And so the things that we go through, they mature us. Like I said earlier, they make us stronger. Because see, there are blessings that God has for you, and if you stay at the level that you are at, you won't receive them. So sometimes we have to go. We have to go through some things in order to receive everything that life has for us. It's not always going to be easy. It's going to be some hard things that we're going to have to endure. So now, I stand before you. And my husband is here right now, in case you guys can figure out. There he is right there. So now, I've resigned, like I said earlier, I resigned from my position. And now he's taking care of me. I took care of our children, and I was the best wife that I could be to him. And I told him, honey, I just feel like, man, it's time for me to branch out, to go out, to tell people my story, to let them know that it's okay to take the mask off. It's okay to own your voice. It's okay to tell your story, because somebody needs to hear your story. And Les Brown, he said, it is important for you to learn how to tell your story, because the goal is when people leave your presence, they will feel better about themselves, because you have used your story strategically to distract, dispute, and inspire. Your story should distract others from the story they currently believe about themselves. They will now begin to become open to the possibility of creating a new story. Because we can believe, like he said, your story should distract others from the story they currently believe about themselves. There are some things that we believe about ourselves, that we're not worthy. That's a lie. That we don't matter. That's a lie. You matter. That what we did, what we went through is too bad. That I can never recover from this because it hurts too bad. That's a lie. When you begin to tell your story, even if you have to cry telling it, your tears will be the breakthrough for somebody else. Again, don't waste your pain. It's all about how you look at it. You can either get bitter or you can get creative. I chose to get creative. I don't have time for being bitter. I don't have time for being depressed and feeling sad about what I went through. Because there are people that are out there who are hurting. And they need to know that when you made it through, they can make it through. So I wrote a book about it. In the midst of the storm. Because storms are going to come. But you have to know that the storm is going to leave. Everything is temporary. Everything, the good and the bad, it's all temporary. And even though something what you want may not happen when you want it to happen. But when you wait on it, and you do everything that you know to do, it's going to come. But even before it comes, you're going to have to go through that storm. Because what life has for you is bigger than what you could ever imagine. Because many times we try to hurry up and get out of the storm, don't we? Especially when there's a hurricane and they tell you to leave, evacuate. Well, I had to speak in North Carolina last weekend during Hurricane Florence. My mom was calling me. She said, "Dorenthea, I do not want you to go." She said they're predicting catastrophic winds and it's going to be a category 5. She said, "You need to stay home." She said, I don't want you to go. You know, she was trying to use her mama authority. But I said, "Okay, Mama, well, I'll talk to Albert and we'll think about it." And we drove into the storm. And sometimes instead of trying to hurry up and get out of the storm, sometimes you have to go face your storm. You have to confront your storm. You have to tell your storm that I'm not going to give up. You have to tell your storm, I'm not going to quit. You have to tell your storm that you can rage, you can blow. And sometimes you feel like you're drowning in your storm. But you have to tell your storm, I was made for this. I was made for this, and I'm not leaving. So I got creative. I wrote a book about my story. And I'm standing here telling you, and I wanted to give you some steps about how to tell your story or how to use your story for the greater good. That, okay, you went through what you went through. It was for a reason. And yeah, you're going to hurt, you're going to cry, it's okay.